On hand to welcome Mr. Dedeji was the outgoing Executive Chairman FIRS, Mr. Muhammad Nami. In his valedictory speech, Mr. Nami began by going down memory lane.
The journey of 1,000 years, it is said, begins with just one step. My 4-year travels of the FIRS began on the 18th day of December, exactly 90 days from today, 2019, with confirmation of my appointment as the Executive Chairman of FIRS by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. What a journey it was, and what a success story it has become. All thanks to God and man. The environment we met on ground in 2019 was characterized by weak administrative structure, inefficient processes that were mostly manual, adversarial labor relations, insufficient funding with serious funding gaps, mutual mistrust between staff and management, and so other reasons. The net effect was low staff morale, the service struggling to fulfilling its mandate, suboptimal performance, inadequate revenue to prosecute government programs, and low tax to GDP. My administration embarked on broad reforms focusing on the following goals. 1, administrative and operational restructuring. The main objective of this goal was to properly align functions for seamless workflow and ultimately efficient service delivery. In order to achieve the said goal, we effected proper staff placement, devolved FIRS administrative structure into 7 groups, created new functional units, established industry-based tax offices, and decentralized audit and investigation functions.
Mr. Nami proudly recalled the due emphasis placed by his administration on automation of the tax administration process.
The service achieved this goal by using in-house capacities to develop and deploy the tax pro marks which had been in use since the year 2021. As of today, the automation program is delivering online TCC, automated VAT collection system, and integrated tax payment, among others.
On other initiatives,
in order to prioritize and satisfy taxpayers' demands, the service installed a 24-hour call center to attend to inquiries. In addition, the service instituted very effective process for collaborating with stakeholders. The result is a tax environment devoid of needless disputes and enabling voluntary compliance. Making FIRS service that is data-centric was the 4th goal. In order to achieve data-inspired decisions in the service, we created the Intelligence and Strategic Data Mining and Analysis Department to source, analyze, and disseminate data for tax operations. The data provided by this function has greatly enhanced the quality of tax compliance and enforcement activities.
On the fruits of reforms,
the implementation of these measures greatly improved the output of the service and specifically resulted into the following. 1, the turnaround time for tax operations is reduced significantly. The service secured ISO certification for some of its processes. 3, improved voluntary tax compliance, successfully altered the tax revenue mix in favor of the non-oil taxes. E, the FRS set new collection records in the year 2021 and 2022. F, the service is currently contributing over 70% of the revenue being shared monthly by FAR. The service is on track to set yet another record in 2023, as it collected over 8.5 trillion naira already cash from 1st January to 14 September, and have assessed, reconciled, recovered over 4 trillion naira outstanding tax liabilities and sequestered funds from NNPC on behalf of the Federation. This total sum of over 12 trillion is exclusive of amounts invested by our taxpayers under the Road Infrastructure Tax Credit Scheme and tax implications of waiver by government from January 2023 to date. During the inauguration of the SY board members of the service, I promised to raise the country's tax to GDP ratio from 6% to 10% in 4 years. We already have achieved a tax to GDP ratio of 10.86% within 2 years, that is at 31st December 2021. It may interest us to know that our projected total tax 2022 collection is a minimum of 15 trillion and a projected tax to GDP of nearly 14% by end of the year 2023. Certainly, the projections by the current government of the tax to GDP of 18% in another 4 years is not only realizable, but can be surpassed.
Following Mr. Name's speech, handing over notes were signed and presented by the outgoing Executive Chairman FRS to the incoming Acting Executive Chairman FRS, after which Mr. Zaccheaus Adedeji delivered his inaugural address.
First and foremost, I extend my heartfelt salutation to my predecessor, Mr. Muhammad Nami, whose leadership during his tenure elevated our standards, paving the way for our future endeavors. Mr. Nami's commitment to excellence has set a remarkable precedent for all of us. I am really privileged to be the one succeeding him. And why? Because most of those seeds he has planted, it is during my tenure that we will have those fruits. Thank you. I wish to convey my profound appreciation to each and every member of Federal Inland Revenue Services family, spanning from our dedicated coordinating directors to our accomplished senior managers. Your unwavering dedication to our vital mission of propelling our nation's economic engine is truly commendable. It is your collective efforts and commitment that form the bedrock of our success and drive us forward. Presently, we confront a pressing revenue crisis with a staggering 96% of government revenue being funneled into servicing our debts. This stark reality necessitates swift and resolute action on our part. We cannot afford to delay. We must act decisively to reverse this concerning trend.
In achieving these set objectives, Mr. Adedeji pledged to align with the Taiwo Oyedele-led Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms.
In our pursuit of greater fiscal future, we are determined to align ourselves with President Bola Tinubu's Extreme Fiscal Policy and Tax Reform Committee. This collaboration will enable us to shape the prosperous fiscal landscape that will empower our nation's growth and development. As we chart our course ahead, Federal Inland Revenue Services is committed to placing innovation, technology, and fresh ideas at the forefront of our operations. This strategic focus will empower us to enhance efficiency, fortify against revenue leaks, and bolster coordination and accountability within our organization.
Mr. Adedeji also pledged that enforcement would be vigorously pursued, while data would drive the entire process.
Our overarching goal is to nurture voluntary tax compliance by establishing a modern, dependable tax system that garners the trust and admiration of all stakeholders. Through this, we hope to create an environment where taxpayers willingly fulfill their civic duties. For those who deviate from their tax obligation, rest assured, we will enforce our responsibility judiciously. We will implement a robust enforcement model that effectively deters tax evader while maintaining fairness and transparency in our processes. A fundamental aspect of our mission is to elucidate to taxpayers why their civic duty matters. We are committed to simplifying our tax system, making it accessible and comprehensible, thereby facilitating voluntary tax payment and fostering a sense of civic responsibility. Quality data will be a cornerstone of our operation, enabling us to measure our progress, make informed decisions, and maintain the highest standard of accountability. We recognize that data-driven strategies are essential to our success. I pledge to maintain an open-door policy, actively engaging with stakeholders to collaboratively construct a tax administration that we can all take pride in. Together, we will build an institution that serves as a beacon of excellence. Our aspiration is audacious: to surpass Africa's average tax to GDP ratio of 16.5% and achieve an impressive 18% within 3 years. By doing so, we aim to reduce our nation's reliance on borrowing and ensure financial sustainability. The principles of integrity, confidentiality, professionalism, and fairness are non-negotiable in our service to the nation. Upholding this value will guide our action and interaction as we work tirelessly to fulfill our mission. Lastly, but not being the least, I would like to emphasize our unwavering commitment to the welfare of our staff. Your dedication will not go unnoticed, and we pledge to recognize and reward your hard work and dedication.
Agenda setting from the onset. A little about Mr. Adedeji. Mr. Adedeji is a first-class graduate in accounting from the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, where he also obtained an MSc in accounting. He later proceeded to the Harvard University Kennedy School of Government in the USA for the executive course in economic development. Between 2011 and 2015, Mr. Adedeji served as the Honorable Commissioner of Finance in Oyo State. Prior to his earlier appointment as Special Advisor to President Tinubu, the new Executive Chairman FRS served as the Executive Secretary of the National Sugar Development Council. Mr. Adedeji is a fellow of both ICANN and CITN. We wish Mr. Adedeji the very best in his new appointment, and to his predecessor, Mr. Muhammad Nami, the very best in his future endeavors.
It is an offense punishable by a fine of 10 million naira and/or imprisonment for any agency of the federal government other than FIRS to demand for books or returns for the purposes of tax. It is also an offense to carry out the function of assessment, collection or enforcement of tax, or pay any portion of tax revenue to any person or into any account other than the relevant accounts designated by the Constitution or relevant laws of the National Assembly. It pays to pay your tax. This message is brought to you by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
You are still onto tax matters. The new Executive Chairman FIRS in his former role as Special Advisor on Revenue Matters was closely involved with the work of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, and we are sure that he would continue to be involved, or at least closely monitor the work of the committee, as the outcome of the committee's work would determine his activities at the FIRS. On this episode of Tax Matters, we want to conclude the agenda-setting interview with Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, the Chairman, Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. Mr. Yedele, welcome once again.
Thank you.
One of the mantra of the Tinubu administration, which President Tinubu has consistently harped upon, is we do not tax poverty, and you mentioned it, and he repeated it at his inauguration of your committee. Now, there was a time where the policy was let everyone pay, no matter how little, so that everyone can contribute and feel a sense of belonging. We would like to get your opinion. Must everyone pay? Should the poor be spared? I want to get your opinion on this.
There are different philosophies about the tax system. It's not like one is right and the other is wrong. It's just a question of how you interpret it and how you see it, and more importantly, how you localize it to your environment. So there's a principle of let everybody pay, no matter how little, so they can have a sense of belonging, and they'll feel like this government is the government I'm funding, so you have to listen to me, right? It increases accountability. Another school of thought is, no, don't ask the poor to pay, which is the school of thought I belong to. The reason is not because we don't want the poor to pay anything. It is because no matter how you design the tax system, the poor will still pay tax. Now, when a poor person buys recharge card, even if it's 100 naira recharge card in a month, there's VAT on it. They've paid tax already. When they take transport, apart from the shared one that is exempted, or, sometimes it could be that they even buy, they feel like, once in a year. I remember when I was in the village, we tend to take soft drink like Coca-Cola during Christmas, right? Even if it's just one bottle a year you are taking, there's VAT on it. So everyone pays tax. It is not efficient to ask poor people to pay income tax, filing returns, submitting them. They can't keep proper record, remembering how much they earn. So that's why around the world you have threshold, even VAT threshold. It took us so long to get the exemption threshold because the person that was hawking cola nuts in traffic and pure water was supposed to register for VAT and be filing returns. How is the person even so? They can't even keep record to save their life. Vulcanizers will file VAT returns. So there's a reason why around the world, even in environments that are more developed than us, based on tax system, they have exemption thresholds that are reasonable. So I do agree with Mr. President that we do not want to tax poverty. So we will use data and evidence to determine who is poor in our own environment, what is the threshold, and then we exempt them from paying income taxes. As much as possible as well, we'd exempt them from paying VAT on basic consumption. If you buy food, medical, education, those basic things that you need to survive, would exempt them from VAT. If you now have plenty of money and you want to go to a 5-star restaurant or you want to buy an iPhone, that's okay. No crime in buying those things, but give us a little to take care of society. So that's the plan as to how we practically implement that concept. Without saying that it is wrong to say everybody should pay, we just think that how to pay is different in our own clime than the way we have implemented this concept in the past. I don't agree with the 1% minimum tax. If you earn minimum wage, don't pay any tax, including minimum tax.
Interesting. Now, there is this mix-up between federal taxes or federal account and federation account, that's FAC. The subnational, that is the states and the local governments, share from federally collected taxes at FAC. For example, from VAT and companies' income tax revenues, yet they want to claim independence under the Constitution and impose consumption tax. Now, what is your view on this? And how will your committee get the states to cooperate and let businesses and individuals breathe?
Yeah, no, we see subnational, particularly the state governors, maybe I should say state government, as a key stakeholder in this project, because you can't get anything done without the state cooperating with you. And so we're interested in engaging with them extensively. We're going to be using the platform of the National Economic Council, as well as the Governors Forum. We'll also visit some of them in their states. The objective is to align towards a common purpose of we have to make Nigeria a better place. That cannot happen by federal government alone. It needs everybody to come on board. So to your question around, federation allocation accounts, independence of states, they're sharing in it, I don't think there's a conflict in all of that. You can still be independent as a state, as provided for in the Constitution, and you then appoint the revenue service at the center to collect the taxes on your behalf. So VAT, for example, is collected by the FRS, but 85% of it is shared to state and local government. So technically, that's a tax of subnational government. There is stamp duties. Stamp duties, the Constitution says, all of the stamp duties, whether collected by FRS or by states, belongs to the states. So when they share in FAC, it's their entitlement. They've only just appointed an agent to collect for them. It's their tax. To that extent, they're still independent. We even think that we should get to a point where there will be no need to fly to Abuja to share revenue. As they are collecting the revenue on a daily basis, the accounts are being credited because the system can handle it. So FAC can then be focused on fiscal policy, ensuring there's coordination when you bring states, federal government, and maybe local government together to discuss about fiscal policy in Nigeria. That's what we envisage going forward.
Fair enough. Now, Mr. President also emphasized the need to eliminate multiplicity of taxes as well as the need to harmonize taxes across the 3 tiers of government. Now, what, in your opinion, is the best approach in achieving this?
I think the best approach is to identify the taxes we collect now. So we're going to be asking both the government, what taxes do you collect? We will not stop there. We're going to ask Nigerian people, what taxes do you pay? Can you give us the evidence of the payment? So ultimately, we have a clear picture of the taxes we currently collect. And we're going to ask ourselves the honest question about, you have 100 and something taxes. How many of them are giving you 99% of your revenue? You find that that number is less than 10. So we then engage with all these politicians and policymakers who have the right to collect those taxes to say, the fact that you have the right to do something does not mean you should do it, right? Can we agree on a list of very few broad-based, easy-to-administer revenue taxes that we will collect and how we will collect it? Once we have that agreement, we then put it into law by creating a framework. In fact, we even think that we should be able to develop a template for states to adopt. Imagine that you come up with a tax harmonization code as a template. So you discuss it with the governors, they're happy with it. Lagos State can say, just put our name on top, we give it to our assembly, and they will pass it into law. Ultimately, we come up with a list of harmonized taxes and levies that are very few, and a framework for ensuring that anyone, state or local government, federal usually would not go against what they agree. That goes against what we've agreed, and they make other people pay what they should not be paying. The people who are paying those taxes will present the evidence, and their monies will be refunded to them and charged against the government, the local government or state that has collected the money against our agreement.
Same day next week, same time, it's another date for us to meet on Tax Matters. Thank you for watching. See you next week.
Attention broadcasters, independent producers, and content streamers.